Fight all through the night, deep in the heart of Texas. The trailer park is nice and dark, deep in the heart of Texas. That drinks his brew and he spits his chew, deep in the heart of Texas. The TV blares, but no one cares, deep in the heart of Texas. Here we go!
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to BWAAA. King of the Hill Rewatch podcast. I am Mike.
And I'm Rusty.
Rusty, we are in Season 2, Episode 9, The Company Man.
Episode 9.
This is December 7th, 1997.
Can't believe we're on Episode 9.
December 7th, right? The day that'll live in infamy. Isn't that right?
December 7th, 19, Fall Day 1. Yeah, I think so. That's what it sounds like.
So you were telling me we got some
May 11th, 97.
We got some star-studded cast here.
Yeah, so in this one you have Hank, who's trying to like secure a deal with a guy who's a developer from New Jersey or something, I think.
Boston.
Yeah, Boston. Sorry,
yeah.
Boston.
Yeah.
It's all the same once you go past the Mason-Dixon line.
I think they're yeah, okay. All right, gotcha.
But you've got Mr. Holloway and Miss Holloway.
Yeah.
And these two people are played by Billy West. Mr. Holloway is played by Billy West, who is a really, really famous voice actor.
Yeah,
really
does a lot of. I think he got really famous doing Futurama.
Futurama, yeah, but he also did some voices on Doug, and he did some voices.
He's done a shit ton
Ren and
of stuff.
Stimpy.
Yeah, did some Ren and Stimpy stuff.
Isn't he the voice of SpongeBob?
I don't. No, that's somebody else.
Is it?
Yeah, that's another guy. That's a comedian.
Either way, yeah, he's prolific. He's done a lot of stuff. Then you have his wife. She doesn't have very many voice parts in this, but his wife is voiced by Stockard Channing, which is a really odd name. But
Stockard
you
Channing.
would know her. Most everybody only knows her from Grease or from the movie Where the Heart Is with Natalie Portman, where she's the girl who lives inside a Walmart.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's like this young Southern girl who gets like abandoned at this Walmart. Every Southern woman knows what that movie is. It's a very Southern, it's a very trailer park Southern movie. You know, she's like this trailer park teenage girl who gets abandoned at a Walmart while she's pregnant by her boyfriend. He just leaves her at this Walmart, so she lives inside the Walmart.
Okay. I got you. You're saying Where the Heart Is.
Yeah, Where the Heart Is.
But Practical Magic also.
Yeah, Practical Magic, yeah. I would say.
Grease, she was the beauty school dropout. No,
she wasn't the beauty school dropout.
She was the Don't Mess with My Silky Drawers.
Yeah, she was the... She was the. I had her name in my head. I should know. I know everything about that movie. Yeah. Keep your filthy paws off my silky
That's
drawers.
Right. That's right. Yeah, that's who she was.
Dang.
Yeah, I can't remember her name in it either. Somebody scream it at your podcast player.
My sister's going to be pissed if she hears this episode of me saying her name.
So this is one where Hank is going to use his sales skills. He fashions himself as a big time salesman of propane and propane accessories. Yep. And, we don't see him on sales calls very often. No,
you don't see him do anything.
You honestly just think he just holds down the fort there at the propane store.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah.
So far in the show anyway.
So we start off with Bobby at the fuel store. Huh?
Sorry,
Rizzo. That's it.
Yeah, it came to me. I had to get that out. I didn't want to get bitched at for that.
So we see Bobby and Hank there at Strickland Propane, and Bobby is writing up his Sunday school report. Hank is, hey, Bobby, why don't you go ahead and read that Sunday school report to me like I'm a customer and you're trying to win my business. And Bobby's like, okay, well, the man I most admire is my dad, Hank Hill. He sells propane and propane accessories. That is literally all he's got written.
That is it. Well, that's all you got, you know?
And Hank's like, I like it, son. You grabbed my attention and got me eager for more. So in comes Mr. Strickland. This is
Hank.
Not the first time for Mr. Strickland, right? or is it? I can't
Oh,
remember.
sorry. Yeah. So this is the first appearance of this episode. Like I said, this episode's got a lot like behind the scenes stuff. So this episode, you've got Buck Strickland's first appearance, MF Thatherton's first appearance, and also the first appearance of the Jug Store Cowboy Strip Club.
Jug Store Cowboys. You know, I was looking that up while I was watching this, and you can buy some lovely Jug Store Cowboys T-shirts.
And I got and this answers somebody's question that listens to our show, because they had pointed out to me that we had skipped an episode, and then they sent me a picture of the first season DVD's contents.
Really?
Well, this show was production code is how they did the DVD. So the production code for this show was the first season. They were going to use it in the first season. So the production code puts it in between 2 episodes in the first season.
This makes more sense being in the first season, to be honest.
It does,
with
and
you.
if you look at some of the drawing, like some of the
not
artwork
only
and
that,
stuff,
it establishes the character.
That
of
too,
Hank.
it establishes
and Buck.
Hank a little bit more. But that's where, like I said, you first meet Buck Thatherton, so it made more sense. But they had shifted it and moved it, so that answers the question to the viewer, because I didn't have an answer for his question until we got to the episode.
We strictly follow the IMDb pathway, is what we're
whatever the internet tells me, or specifically Hulu, wherever Hulu guides me.
That's true.
I would like the DVD though. I might have to buy the DVDs just so we can get all the behind the scenes stuff.
Probably visit your local Goodwills and do that, make that whole collection happen.
Yeah, probably.
So I was looking up Jug Store Cowboys, and like I said, there's some wonderful Jug Store Cowboy merchandise you can buy. But I was also directed, whenever you look up Jug Store Cowboys, there is a picture of a strip joint here in Texas. And this strip joint is called Texas Showgirls. I don't know exactly where that's at. But proudly on their sign, they say, "We are now the cheapest topless bar in Texas," which I think is a weird brag, but okay.
Yeah, that's
fantastic.
That is a weird brag.
We're the cheapest. All right. So in comes Buck Strickland for the first time, and howdy, Hank. And that's always Mr. That's the same guy who does Bill, Stephen Root.
Yeah,
doing his voice, and this is one of my favorites because when you watch "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," there's a lot of Buck Strickland in that radio DJ that he plays in that movie. The voices are a lot.
The that's
same.
Him, the blind guy.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that's him. Okay,
yeah. So he comes in, just like Buck always does. Hank, howdy, what you got there, old chop? And he's talking to Bobby, and Bob,
what you got there, old top?
He's reading his report, and it's the man I most admire is my daddy. And he said, "You got that right, Bobby. 15 years, I promoted him 15
times, yeah.
all the way to assistant manager." So what are the other promotions? It took 14 to get to assistant manager.
To where he was at.
He said, "You should be proud, son. You're his seed." And then Bobby, of course, in Bobby fashion, "I'm my daddy's seed."
I'm my daddy's seed.
So
weird.
Buck tells Hank that he's got a grunt, which if you're not from Texas, I don't know if that's a thing or not, but I have heard old guys say grunt when they say they got to poop.
Oh, I've never ever heard that.
Yeah, I got a grunt. Let's take a little meeting in the back.
I've never heard that. Well,
he said, "Bobby,
if they've got a problem if they've got a grunt to shit, Mike, they've got more problems than."
Well, they do call it that.
Verbiage.
I got a grunt.
Yeah.
And so he throws Bobby the key to the March of Dimes gumball machine and says, "All you can eat."
All you can eat.
So now we transition into the men's room. I'm assuming they're at Strickland Propane.
Yeah, I really like how Strickland sounds. Like, I like his voice a lot. They're gonna need a propane supply.
Oh yeah. And so he is on the can, and he's having a meeting with Hank, who Hank is trying very hard to face the other way.
It's often they have these meetings in the can.
Well, what's funny is what comes in the flashback. He says, "Have you ever heard of Holloway Hollows?" And Hank pipes up with, that's the one that says "Country Club Living at Price Club Prices," which I'm assuming he's talking Sam's, Costco, that kind of thing. He said, "Yeah, that's the one. They're going to need that propane supply. Holloway himself come down here to Boston to check us out. This one's big, Hank. Here's your sales kit." Gives him keys to a Cadillac
and
a crisp $100 bill. And, the funny thing about this is I remember when these $100 bills came out. They used to be different than this, and then they came out.
It would be many years before I would see a $100 bill when this episode came out.
They came out with these had I believe the first ones had the magnetic strip in it, had the big Ben Franklin head and all that stuff.
I remember when they went blue.
Oh, yeah. And so he gives him his sales kit, and Hank is a little confused. Rental car keys. And he said, "Yeah, big old caddy. Yankees eat that stuff up like baby at Mama's malt shop," which is pretty gross.
Malt shop.
You know, it's a gross thing to say, but okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, it is. It is gross.
Hank's like, "What the heck is this?"
Mama's malt shop.
He holds up that Ben Franklin.
Well, it's Southern though. You know what I mean? It's blue collar and gritty.
I get it.
It's really
it's
blue
just,
collar
if
gritty.
you think
I've
about
heard
it
way worse on a production floor.
Sure.
So gritty.
Mama's malt shop.
That's a good one.
So he asks him what the heck is this? He tells him it's one of them counterfeit Benny Franklin $100 bills. $100 bills. 100. And Hank proceeds to tell him that this is Hank Hill you're talking to. I'm not going to need all that James Bond stuff to make a deal. James Bond, $100 bill and a Cadillac car.
Yeah, James. I don't need
Cadillac
all that James
car.
Bond stuff. Maybe he means gadgets.
I
Maybe
guess.
in his mind, when
It's
he's going to do a sale, if he has anything else attached to the sale other than the pie
So
or a
it's his
pie a la
voice and his
mode.
pie.
Yeah.
He said, "Well, Hank, I don't want to sneeze during your backswing, but we got some competition. MF Thatherton." And then, of course, Hank, this brings up a big bad thing for Hank. He's just like,
it pulls out a
Thatherton.
memory, and this is this right here really lays the foundation of how crazily devoted Hank is to this old time.
That's true.
This old timer Strickland here, and it's really weird. You know, he's to say he's the dad he never wanted or whatever, or the dad he did want is weird to say now that I see this episode, because it's like, why would he want the same dude that his dad is? But all this dude is just, he's like his dad, but he has money instead.
Well, just think about this.
He's just like a less broke version of Cotton.
Well, just think about this. Cotton had a Cadillac car, and he just threw him keys to the Cadillac car.
Yeah, well, that's the only
I don't
thing
know if
that
that's really a
Cotton
big thing,
has.
but still.
Well, I know it's all. Well, that's all the correlations. They both womanize.
Yeah.
They both drink. They both cheat on their women.
Oh, absolutely.
They both do all kinds of crazy stuff.
So we end up in this flashback, and you're back in the same bathroom, but it's Hank and Thatherton, who used to work for Strickland, we find out.
Yeah, he did. I didn't know that.
And then we see...
I didn't remember this episode. This is one of the ones that slipped my memory.
And then we see Buck sitting on the toilet again. He apologizes for having to call a meeting in the Skunk Works.
The Skunk Works, yeah, I've never heard that one either.
I've never heard that one either. He says he promises not to make a habit of it, which is kind of funny because he's definitely made a habit of it. And so...
it's an extreme habit, yeah.
Yeah. So he finishes up, and Hank and Thatherton are talking, and he says, "Boy, Thatherton, those are some pretty tough sales quotas, I tell you what." And here we get the first Thatherton, being Burt Reynolds, saying, "You want to meet that quota? Take some propane to an old age home. Tell them it's oxygen," which that's just going to kill people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that just going to kill people? Hank is he's very upset about that. Says you can't do that to old people, and Thatherton gives him the speech, which sounds a lot like a used car salesman or a sleazy politician or something. He says, "Aren't you the company man? You see the difference between us? You're a worker bee. I'm the queen." Which is weird, right?
Which is really weird.
Yeah.
And he says something again, something along the lines. There's another line he has later on down that's also kind of suspect, like that one is.
So he tells Hank that he's going out on his own with Thatherton Fuels, and he's already signed Strickland's top 3 accounts. And Hank fires back and says, "You got one heck of a nerve plotting against a man while his seat's still warm." And he says, "Take a look around, Hank, because you ain't going nowhere." And Hank says, "That's where you're wrong." But, of course, we know Hank really hasn't gone anywhere.
Yeah, he never goes anywhere. But that's funny because he's going to sit down right there on a warm toilet seat. Mm-hmm. That's the worst thing in the world.
I can't stand
is to, go to a bathroom in a public space and sit down. And unless it has a seat warmer function.
No, none of them do.
And none
you
of
know
them
what
do.
I mean? None of them do.
None of them do. So
I like
if you
to think
down,
they do sometimes, but they don't.
Well, I try to. If I sit down on one and it's warm, I just I close my eyes. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm in a land of luxury right now. I'm sitting on a nice preheated seat.
How often do you use those toilet seat covers? You know those paper
honestly,
ones?
never.
Really?
I just clean the toilet seat off.
I'll get like 3 or 4 of them.
Oh, 3 or 4.
Start putting them on top of each other.
No, I never use them. I just get like a toilet, like a piece of napkin and wet it.
The thing is, it's not like the seat has a whole heck of a lot on it. You know, it's what's in the toilet that is worse. I would think.
I would imagine.
So we flash back to present day, and Hank's like, "You can count on me. I appreciate your confidence. I just want." And then Buck, he's done. He's like, "Hank, a little privacy, do you mind?" So that meeting is over.
Hank.
We're back at Hank's house, and Bill is like a moth to a flame. He's out there touching the car, the big Cadillac with the steer horns on the front of it.
But it's funny, the segue of dialogue from here, because he's like, can I get a little privacy while he's taking a dump? And then the next lines are like, look at this. It's long. It's like, it's so big.
Well, it's funny because Bill is just out there talking to himself. He's like, look at this. It's long. It's like, it's so big. It's just like muttering under his voice. Yeah. It's just so weird. We go inside the Hank Hill house, and Peggy is talking to him. She's looking at the big Ben Franklin $100 bill. And she says, he truly was the homely genius. And Hank proceeds to tell her that she can take a good look at it because it's going back to Strickland on Monday. Peggy wants to know why he's not using this for his big client. He said, I've never needed a three-figure entertainment budget. Yeah. 3 figures, $100. Yeah. That's not how that works. No. He says, I'm going to close this deal the same way I always do: a cup of coffee, a slice of pie, and a handshake. And if I hit a snag, pie a la mode. Which, it sounds like you're trying to get a little kid excited about something. Yeah. It's not like a salesman.
It's got to be really good pie.
I mean, that would be like the 50s or something, right? I mean, that's the way you sell something to somebody then.
No, I thought they just smoked a bunch of cigarettes and.
Well, but again, you'd go to the diner with the coffee and the pie and all that stuff. Yeah, it's like Twin Peaks, damn fine pie.
Oh yeah, damn fine pie.
All right, so he's going to do that, and Hank goes outside, and now all the boys have gathered around this Cadillac car, and he's telling them to stop messing with it because Dale is over there pushing the horn, which is playing Yellow Rose of Texas.
Oh, yeah, and then he says, that horn is for highway emergency use only, and you two get off. I've got to return this pimp mobile in the same condition.
Pimp mobile.
I thought it was funny how he's always so... that horn is for highway emergency use only. That kind of crap. It's so funny.
So Con asks him why he has a silly cow car, and then the boys tend to
Dale. Hank's entertaining a business prospect from the East, Mr. Con.
So Con's like, oh,
it's weird how he says it. I like how he says it real slow and low.
From the East.
From the East, Mr. Con.
He says, oh, I see. Hank suck up to make sale. And that does rub Hank the wrong way. He's like, Con, I've never had to suck up to make a sale, and I never will. And then they question what the Holloways look like because, those Boston types. The
stereotype of a Bostonian right here.
They're small,
pale, and wearing penny loafers. We apologize to anybody from Boston.
So we're at the airport, and they meet the Holloways. And Mr. Holloway already has what looks like a 40-gallon hat on. He's got a cowboy suit, and what I mean by that is that Western cut. Those are usually made out of polyester.
Oh, so with the leather cut that he's wearing or whatever?
Yeah. So he's like, put her there, partner. And, of course, he's got the Boston accent, but he wants to be a cowboy so bad. And Hank questions whether this is him
Mr.
or not.
Holloway is a prom dress tight after a six-pack.
Which way to your Cadillac? Yeah, and so Hank assumes he's got this one in the bag. That's what he tells Peggy anyway. So they're back at the Hill house, and, of course, Peggy comes out and says, would you like to freshen up with a nice hot towel? Here's one for you. And the thing that and I know that Holloway says something about it, but when they start unfolding those towels and they're actual, the size of bath towels.
Oh, yeah, they're huge.
It's just
towels,
the funniest thing.
Texas-sized towels.
And so Hank tells them that Peggy heated those towels on his propane-powered Hot Point range. Did a great job, I'll tell you what. And then Holloway really likes that, I tell you what. So he says he's going to say that while he's there. And Hank kind of launches into his first the first bit of his sales
where he talks about Hot Point, which Hot Point, him having Hot Point is kind of funny. I know a little bit about Hot Point, and it's a real it's a Canadian company, or not Canadian, sorry, Ontario, California, sorry.
Okay.
I remember Ontario, but not Canada. It's in California.
Yeah.
And it's like a real American company. And it's been around since like 1903.
When you say Hot Point, I think Magic Chef. I think Hot Point, Whirlpool. Those kind of brands.
Yeah. So Hot Point, they were actually like the first all white, fully enameled like electric range.
Oh, really?
And first electric moistureless clothes dryers.
Moistureless clothes dryer.
Yeah. So they had actually they were the first one to
moisture.
give you a 90-day replacement guarantee of satisfaction
on
your product. So, but Hot Point's like a
Go
real
Hot Point.
American company. So for Hank to sell, which a lot of people don't know it. I imagine a lot of older Southern people would know it.
Mm-hmm.
Like at that age, like probably the 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds when this show came out probably knew what a Hot Point was because it was a big American appliance. And
I think they used to sell Hot Point at Montgomery Ward's, and so this is 2 episodes in a row that I have referenced Montgomery Ward's.
Yeah, because that's where you would have bought one at, was probably through Montgomery Ward or through a Sears catalog.
So Hank launches into his first part of his sales. He said, "Well, I'd like to tell you, Strickland I'd like to tell you what Strickland can do to meet your energy needs. You see, at Strickland, the customer comes first. It's kind of interesting. The word customer begins with C-U. Well, we don't see you as just another sale, but as a member of our team. And that goes nowhere. I mean, it goes nowhere.
This guy doesn't care at all one bit. He's looking for something like a Western movie. He's looking for some kind of John Wayne flick or something here.
And so Hank looks over at Peggy for some help, and she just mouths the word pie. So now it's time. It's time to unleash the magic sales tool of pie or pie a la mode. They get to the diner, and it's Holloway, Bobby, and Hank there, and he asks him if he likes pie. And, of course, Bobby chimes up and says, I do. Like he doesn't know that Bobby likes pie. He said, they got the best pie in town here, Mr. Holloway, and it's cooked with Strickland propane, too. And Holloway is not interested at all.
No, he's not interested, not whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. He said, hey, look, there's a real old Texas jukebox, just like in the Last Picture Show. If the Last Picture Show is the only thing you know about Texas, then it is 1953.
You don't know anything
here.
about Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. So the waitress comes over and says, what do you have, Hank? The salesman special? He said, yes, ma'am, 3 slices of pecan pie and 2 cups of coffee. And then, of course, Bobby, 3 scoops of ice cream.
Yeah, 3 scoops of ice cream.
And so here's a teachable moment for Hank. He said, now, hold on, son. Let me tell you a little salesman trick. Don't start off with the ice cream right away, because if you run into a hitch, you got no place to go.
No place to go.
And then Holloway comes back, and he's pissed off because the Texas jukebox
doesn't have the theme from
Dallas on
like,
it.
what in the hell? Okay, so as a young man, I have been to a lot of Texas beer joints.
Sure.
And that is like
no, that's never on anything.
From the age of 6 to I decided that I don't like beer joints anymore in my 30s. So there's no Dallas theme song.
As a guy who was alive when Dallas was
years.
on, I don't think that was even on the jukeboxes then. I don't know that was playing anywhere.
Maybe some Patsy Cline or something.
Yeah, not the theme from Dallas.
Maybe even like if you're in a really middle of nowhere kind of place in the 90s, you would have got stuff like Tom T. Hall and Ernest Tubbs and stuff still on jukeboxes.
Yeah. But not
Gary Stewart.
Not anything from a TV show. Not a soundtrack from a TV show.
No.
So Hank's is trying to get this back around to the sale, and he says, "Mr. Holloway, I won't beat around the bush. There's 14 reasons to go with Strickland." Can you imagine sitting there and having Hank tell you the 14 reasons to go with Strickland propane?
Yeah, I would have went with.
They're very compelling reasons, by the way.
I would have had to go with MF Thatherton on that one.
And so Holloway starts just singing, JR, he's a really bad guy who lives on a ranch with his mom.
Say, I'm going to call you JR. Yeah.
Why is he singing? All right, and then we get our introduction to Thatherton as Thatherton Fuels. Not working for Strickland anymore. He said, well, howdy, Hank. Aren't you going to introduce me to your golden-throated friend?
Which there's a flub around here. I don't know if it's at this scene or not, but there was a whatever scene it was where Hank he sees when he flashes back in time and he sees like a picture.
Yeah.
It's like the picture, it says Thatherton Fuels, but instead of it saying Thatherton Fuels, the store says it was labeled Thatherton Propane.
Oh, okay.
Not Thatherton Fuels,
right.
like the company's actually named.
Huh.
I think that was before the flashback, right before Hank did the flashback earlier on. Yeah.
He says he asked Hank if he's going to introduce him to his golden-throated friend because Mr. Holloway's singing, and he says, sure, I'll introduce him. Mr. Holloway, this is the only man ever censured by the Texas Propane Association for lewdness and conduct unbecoming a propane salesman.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know either. He says, MF Thatherton Fuels.
I wonder now that's I wonder if there's really is a Texas Propane Association, which I'm sure there is.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
But yeah. I wonder if they're censuring people though. I wonder if that's really a thing. Like, oh well, you were lewd and misconducting yourself.
I doubt very seriously there is a censure thing that's put in place for anybody who does lewdness and conduct unbecoming a propane salesman. I just don't think that's a thing. But if it is, I'm sure we'll hear about it. He introduces himself as MF Thatherton Fuels, and he's like, dang glad to meet you, MF. And of course in his best Boston accent, and
the MF stands
Hank
for.
tries to get in front of it and says the MF stands for, and then here comes Thatherton, my friend, because at Thatherton Fuels we're everybody's friend. We want to be your friend too, Mr. Holloway. Then he looks at Bobby and he says, who is this, Hank? Your district sales manager? I can't imagine it's been long enough for him not to know who Bobby is.
Bobby is, yeah, he should know who Bobby is.
I think that's just bullshit.
Well, if you go back to that scene, and that scene was 15 years before, so Bobby wouldn't have been born, I guess, at that point. But I imagine if he's been the competition for 15 years, I mean, I'm sure he would know his competition had a child.
So Bobby pops up and says, I'm his son, Bobby, and I'm waiting for my pie.
I'm waiting for my pie. I can see you get your sense of humor from your daddy.
Frickin' Bobby. He says he gets his sense of humor from both his parents. Thank you very much, which I don't know what that means either. But
I don't even know what that means, yeah.
And I
think that's his fragile masculinity.
I think so. He says, pleasure meeting you, Holloway. I'll let Hank get on with his 14 reasons speech. And then Holloway is really taken by Thatherton, says, Bobby, you can tell your Sunday school class that you met a real Texan today, MF Thatherton. And so Hank, in a last-ditch effort, says Joe Tiffany, which wonderful Texas name, Joe Tiffany.
Joe Tiffany? Yeah. Hey, Joe Tiffany.
You better make that pie a la mode. All right, and that is a commercial break, and we're going to take one, too. We will be right back. It is summertime here in Central Texas, and I don't know about you, but I am already sweating.
Oh, yeah. I've got swamp ass and ball sweat more than I know what to do with. And, if it wasn't for Ballsy and their products, I'm sure right now I'd be able to smell my own balls. So I'm really, thankful for their products.
Yeah. Your cleanliness is a reflection of you, especially below the belt. I think about cleanliness a lot because, like, I've got a beard. I've had one for a long time. You've got one. But I never really think about taking care of my down under as I do my face.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I don't think that a lot of people, think about keeping their balls clean and fresh.
No.
I think that's an endemic in males is keeping our groin area clean.
Yeah, because, it's no secret that balls are prone to odor, sweat, irritation. So you need something like Ballsy.
Yeah, so guys, you need to upgrade your balls game with Ballsy. Yep. They've got quality, long-lasting products formulated to keep you fresh, comfortable, and confident. And for me, I tried out the Ballsy trimmer, the beard trimmer part of it. I shaved my mustache with it.
That's the cool thing. It comes with both heads.
It comes with both heads.
So it's not like you have to use the same head on your face as you do your intimate regions.
Yeah, your intimate regions.
Yeah.
So they got your sack covered with a ball wash, sack spray, and more. And I'll attest to the ball wash. My balls have never smelled cleaner and felt fresher ever in the entirety of my life. So
yeah, I took a small sample of friends and family, and they said my balls smelled wonderful.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's good. My dog
it
told
was
me
uncomfortable after that.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
Yeah. So, when you go to Ballsy, you can get different things like you can take a quiz to see where to start. They have a sack pack. The sack pack has all of it. It's the ultimate
trifecta.
It is the ultimate trifecta of products, specially formulated to take care of your most prized possessions, which should be your balls.
And the big thing is it is made right here in the U.S. of A.
In the U.S. of A. That's right. And it always will be.
Always will be.
Or so tell the people at Ballsy.
or so says Ballsy.
So
and
says
they
Ballsy.
have over 200,000 currently satisfied customers with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So you've got to give it a try.
Yeah.
There's no risks involved.
Yeah.
And the only thing that could happen out of this is clean, fresh balls.
That's what I'm saying, right? So what you need to do is go to ballwash.com, put in promo code KOTH, as in King of the Hill. So ballwash.com, promo code KOTH, and you'll receive 20% off your order of $50 or more. That's 20% off when you go to ballwash.com and put in promo code KOTH. So says Ballsy.
Balls.
Hey, Rusty.
Hey, Mike.
Your dog deserves tasty, healthy, real food, not kibble. Don't give him kibble.
No, I like to give my dog food that's created by a vet that exceeds all industry standards.
There you
Fresh
go.
dog food, stable life, a stable shelf life, and affordable. This food here, Sundays for Dogs, Mike, it's
Sundays for dogs.
It's 40% less expensive than
Holy
leading fresh
crud.
brands.
Yeah, and it's like you say, it's created by a vet. It's shelf stable, which I don't get those dog foods that are in the freezer and refrigerator and stuff. That just seems like a lot. I've got a friend of mine who makes his own cat food, which is weird. But
It's especially weird when you could get it from Sundays for Dogs.
that's what I'm saying, right? I mean, he's got cats, so he's weird anyway. But
Well, he could feed it Sundays for Dogs.
feed his cats to Sundays for Dogs.
It's created by a vet. It's fresh dog food. It's customized for dog size, breed, and activity level. So all he has to do is take a quick quiz and see if it's right for his pup.
Yeah, you just go to sundaysfordogs.com. You take the quiz. Best part about all this, well, let me tell you about some of the benefits first. You're going to get increased excitement from your dog about eating, which my dogs are not super excited about eating because I buy them junk, but not anymore. You'll get better stool, which, if your dogs stay outside all day, that's a big deal. You'll get more energy out of your dogs, improve weight, softer coat, just a better life for your dogs if you feed them this
my
stuff.
dog loves it. It's real easy for her to eat. She's an older dog, but it's really easy for her to eat. And
She's 104.
She's 104, yes. Right. And the fact
not
that
in
it's
dog years,
not in dog
which
years,
is
in human
weird.
years, she's extremely old, and I think it's due to eating Sundays for Dogs.
Sure.
Which the quality ingredients are really good for her health. The crap they put in, a lot of the store brand stuff
junk,
is just junk for them.
Yeah.
And a lot of filler and stuff like that.
It's like feeding your kid Doritos all day.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like a bag of Doritos.
That kid's going to stop up at some point.
And Sundays for Dogs is like a bag of carrots with...
It is. It's like carrots and real meat and things
just
like
good
that.
Stuff. Yeah.
If you go to sundaysfordogs.com and take that quiz and figure out the right plan for your pup, the best part about that is you can get 35% off your first order if you use the code KOTH, as in King of the Hill, KOTH, and you'll get 35% off your order.
Wow, 35%.
That's a big
good.
deal.
That
Most of these things you hear is 10%, but for this one, you go to sundaysfordogs.com, enter KOTH as the code, and get 35% off.
Yeah, that's great.
Woof.
Watch us fight all through the night, deep in the heart of Texas.
Okay, we're back, and we see Hank with
Mr. Holloway.
Mr. Holloway out in the middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere. Which this is a really weird business tactic.
It is a weird business
Let me
tactic.
just take you to the middle of nowhere.
He
but I
said-
guess, for the instance of what he did it for. So he goes and says, it's the only place, or so he says, under your very feet, Mr. Holloway. It's what's called the propane crossroads. It's the only place in the world you could straddle the east and west pipelines. And then he spread his legs and stood on either side. And then he said, you want Texas, Mr. Holloway? This is Texas. So this guy right here being a prick, for a lack of a better word, and he goes, well, where are the oil wells? Where are the rattlers, JR? I want to buy a 6-shooter. So he has this, like I say, he's expecting the Wild West coming to Texas.
Oh yeah,
which is a question.
We still get that though.
I still get that. Well, that we got that from in our other podcast that we do, the David Letterman podcast, when we interviewed Jay
that
Stern.
guy.
And he was like, well, how is Texas?
He was asking us whether we ride horses and all that stuff.
Yeah, other kind of wild stuff. You have to go check that out. But
here's my question about this scene. If you were to find out where the east and west pipelines straddle each other, is that where Arlen is?
No, they probably drove out.
You think they drove?
I think they probably would have had to drive out.
Okay.
But how far is Arlen from Midland and Odessa?
I
wonder where the pipeline actually meets, which is probably
or whether it actually
probably get you on a list.
It may not.
Probably get you on a list
true,
looking
if
it
you
up.
look at the
These days,
pipelines,
with the way
that's right.
energy crisis is,
That's
you'd probably
right.
get put on a list looking up the location of a pipeline.
So from this scene, we get over to Hank's house again, and it's Peggy and Mrs. Holloway, and Peggy is serving her some Frito pie.
Pie.
She's letting her know it's spicy, spicy, spicy. And so Mrs. Holloway tries it. And she says,
Which
that's
spicy
yummy.
though? How could anything that Peggy makes be spicy?
I don't know. We've already been told that she
Are Fritos spicy?
doesn't put anything in there. Yeah.
Is she trying to say Fritos are spicy?
She says, yeah, that's yummy. And Peggy's like, yes, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
She says, but Peggy, you shouldn't make such a fuss over me. I just want you to be yourself. And she goes, that's the
I'm
only
a gal I know how to be.
That is so Peggy right there.
That is
That's
such a
just
Peggy thing because
fantastic.
it's also like not what she does.
No,
she
that's
tries
true,
to
too.
be. Sometimes she tries to be too much of everything but herself.
She does try to be everything to everyone. We're back in the car, back in the Cadillac car with with the boys, and it says, Mr. Holloway is he's just an ass. Number one, the guy's just a jerkwad. He's like, I told you nicely to buy me a gun. Buy me a gun.
Buy me a
that's
gun.
a big deal.
That
if
is
you
a
buy
big
somebody
deal.
a gun. And
Well,
so,
not in Texas.
well, that's true. Hank's like, well, I know it's always fun to take home a keepsake, but your time is so valuable.
And that's what I mean by being Texas. Hank didn't even think of anything about actually buying the gun. He was
the
just like,
gun
oh,
wasn't
he's
a
just trying to make the
problem, yeah.
sale. He's still
it's true.
on the sale. He would have bought him the gun if it made the sale.
And so they're driving around, and the only reason I think that this is close to where those pipelines meet is because they're driving around, and Holloway's like, "There's nothing out here." And he asks him about the suicide rate, and Hank's like, "Do you mean right here? Because this is where Holloway Hollows is going up." So I'm assuming that Holloway Hollows is pretty close to Arlen,
Yeah,
right?
it must be at this
if they're
point.
going to service them. And anyway, Holloway is like, "There's something wrong," and Hank's
That's the darn
it's
unions.
those darn unions. And he gets up out of the car and says, "Come on, boys, finish up them little Debbies and get back to work."
Which I don't understand why that Texas mentality is. I mean, you might be able to explain that to
What
me.
do you mean?
Why do Texans hate the idea of a union? Unionizing at work.
I don't think that Texans have always hated the idea of a union. I think unions got got made into the big boogeyman during the Bush years, the Reagan years, Bush years. They were saying that unions cause job loss. Basically, all they're saying is if you guys group together, then these companies can't manhandle you anymore and can't tell you what to do.
You. So the beginning of Rush Limbaugh's career.
Sure,
Okay.
pretty much. Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
There are some places where unions make total sense, and there's some that aren't. But to say I'm either pro-union, anti-union, that's not the way the world is.
Yeah.
There are lots of shades of gray in this world, and everybody tries to reduce it down to black and white.
Yeah, it never is. Yeah.
There's my soapbox. So he tells them to stop eating them little Debbies and get back to work. And Holloway says, no. There's something wrong with you. Where's your cowboy boots? And Hank launches
I don't
into,
have cowboy
I don't
boots.
have cowboy boots.
It's
Texas has changed a lot.
since the 1850s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Holloway's he's
Disappointed.
He's very disappointed. He's
Almost
like,
pissed off, more than disappointed.
geez, I just wanted to see some boots or spurs, anything. I come all the way from Boston to see Texas, and you don't have real boots, guns, or nothing. And that's when Hank sees the big Thatherton sign right there by Holloway Hollows that's going up. And he goes, Mr. Holloway, I once had a pair of boots, and then one day my Uncle Fess lost his in Uncle Fess.
Oh, you mean a twister?
And so he says, yep, a big size. And this is when Hank really goes out of his comfort zone. He starts lying to him.
Yeah, and you can tell he's lying.
Yeah, a big Texas-sized twister. I tell you what, well, that dang twister sucked his boots plumb off. Well, you can't bury a man in his stocking feet. It's cowboy
it's
code.
The cowboy code.
So I gave him my boots.
Boots.
Yeah.
Well, you got to have boots in the afterlife.
And so Holloway perks up a little bit. He likes that story a lot. But Bobby, it being in the back seat, he's like, I always thought you were afraid to wear boots because your toes are fat,
Yeah.
which is pretty fantastic. And then we go to Peggy and Mrs. Holloway kind of just driving around on a leisurely drive, and they pull up in front of a house. And Peggy lets her know that in the summer of 1953, something that she treasure happened right there in that pink house. She wants to know what, and she says the noted poet Ogden Nash wrote his poem, The Cow.
So I never heard of Ogden Nash before. I guess that's a great American poet I've never heard of.
Well, he's known for his brevity and his shortness of poems.
So that's his poem. The cow is the bovine ilk, one that is moo, the other milk.
Yep, that's an actual poem.
Okay.
That's his. Yep. I'm not sure how somebody like that gets famous, but all right.
Because he wrote a poem called "The Cow." I mean, that was like
was the
1953's equivalent of viral.
Yeah, I guess you're about right. So now Hank is kind of giving in to this whole thing. They are at the boot store, cowboy store, whatever you want to call it, and the poor guy is trying to put boots on Hank's feet. He says, "Sir, I don't recommend a cowboy boot for a chubby-toed customer like yourself. You might want to try a Birkenstock." Birkenstock is not what you want to say to Hank.
No.
Hank's just like,
it's not what Hank would ever wear. But Hank would probably walk around barefoot before wearing a pair of Birkenstocks.
Not Birkenstocks, no. I don't think Hank wants to show anybody his toes, number one. That just doesn't seem like Hank. It seems like he would be in sock feet before he would show anybody his toes. But Mr. Holloway has now picked out Hank some spurs. And, of course, he calls Hank JR every time he talks to him.
Yeah.
Bobby's very proud that he helped pick them out.
Yeah, Bobby's super proud at this point.
Bobby's just like a parrot at this point, on Hank's shoulder. And Hank says, "Well, that sure would complete the outfit, but I don't want to scar the carpet." And this poor guy on the ground, he's trying to put these boots on Hank. He's like, "Who cares about the carpet? You hurt my feelings."
Yeah. You know what else he needs? A hat.
He tells him that he needs a hat just to get back at Hank. And, of course, Mr. Holloway's like, "Yeah, big old cowboy hat. I want to see Texas with a guy in a big cowboy hat like mine," because he's wearing that giant freaking cowboy hat. And Hank, this is the first snap from Hank. Hank's like, "I'm not wearing a dumb hat." And then Mr. Holloway comes back and says, "I thought you were a real Texan like that Thatherton fellow." And then Hank's salesman part kicks in again. He says, I'm only not wearing a hat because of my solemn vow I made to President Lyndon Baines Johnson on the occasion of the birth of his daughter, Linda Bird. Was that really her name, Linda Bird?
I think so.
Okay. And then Mr.
Lyndon Johnson killed our Kennedy. Yeah.
It's like he killed our Kennedy. Oh, my goodness. And so... He also throws in a lasso. He wants this lasso from the boot store.
Yeah, so they're riding back from the boot store and he's throwing it at him.
Right, and then in comes John Redcorn and Boomhauer. Boomhauer's like, "Hey man, look at that rhinestone cowboy man."
Yeah,
and Hank's like, "Oh
not
Lord, not now."
And then he goes, "Look, JR, an engine and a hillbilly."
How offensive, man! An engine and a hillbilly. And but they don't flinch.
They never say anything like that themselves, I don't think.
Oh no, they would never offensive. Say anything like that. Yeah.
They say whatever was appropriate for the era, but even I think that was even offensive in the 90s.
That was pretty offensive. Yeah,
he goes, "You might want to call Dr. Scholes, man. 911." He said they're pointing at his boots. "Y'all look like that dang old Hoss Cartwright with that old crap man, your toe cramp."
So we're back at Hank's house, and he's getting those toe cramps, and Peggy's trying to pull the boots off of him. And she just wants to know what's going on with Hank. She goes, "The way Bobby tells it, you bought my freedom from the Comanches with your rodeo winnings.
And you were worth every penny."
Fantastic.
I think it's funny that he says, "And you were worth every penny."
Yeah. He says, Peggy, being a salesman is just like being an actor. I'm just playing a role. You know, that fella, kind of like that fella at the dinner theater you like so much." And she says, "This is not Camelot, and you are not Jason Alexander." So he points at what Peggy is wearing, and she is wearing a very stylish pantsuit. It's an all-in-one piece pantsuit. And he says, "You're not wearing that to dinner, are you?" She says, "What, you don't like it? It's a special pantsuit for tonight I got, and it came from Frumpies." Frumpies. What a great place for a woman to shop. Frumpies. He says, don't you still have that bridesmaid outfit you wore to one of Luann's mama's weddings? One of her mama's weddings. "Oh, here." And he pulls out what looks like a cheerleader costume for a cowgirl, right? It's
yeah.
The hat that's just a little too small. It's got the thing that goes on. It's got the strap that goes under her chin.
Yeah.
It's got the red frilly shirt, and then the skirt. It looks like what a beauty queen would wear to show off her ability to lasso things, during the talent portion. So, being the ever great wife, she puts on the funky little. I don't know why she has it. Number one, I don't know why she has that outfit, but okay.
Not sure either.
And so they're about to go to dinner. Bobby's in there still trying to write his Sunday school report, which I don't understand, but Sunday school never made me write a report, but okay.
Yeah.
He said, "Hey, Dad, I was going over the stuff you told Mr. Holloway. How could Mom get pregnant with me if you spent the 80s in a Mexican POW camp?"
Mexican
POW camp. There's some big leaps taken in this one.
Huge
that's one of my
leaps.
favorites is Mexican POW camp.
That one's a good one.
And he has to kind of explain to Bobby that sometimes some things you say like that, the details aren't necessarily
the details
important.
aren't so important.
And Bobby just snaps back at him.
I got to get my facts straight, Dad. There's a Q&A after my speech tomorrow, and these Sunday school kids are tough.
These Sunday school kids are tough.
Yeah, tough crowd.
Hank is like, "I'll help you, son. I promise. When I get home tonight, we'll sit down. We'll go over anything you might have taken out of context." And
he's gonna sit down and remove everything, and he's got to rewrite his whole project.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So now we're going out to eat with the Holloways in the Hills, and we are at the Panhandler Steakhouse, which I love their sign. It's just a big old cow and says Panhandler Steakhouse in it.
Yeah, and then so they go to eat or whatever, and that's where Miss Holloway didn't come because she was sick because of the Frito pie.
Well, you don't know that necessarily, but Peggy says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Miss Holloway didn't feel well enough to join us. Maybe what she ate on the plane didn't agree with her." And we get that flashback to the Hills house, and Bobby and Luann are both there, and they ask her if she wants some cold Frito pie. That sounds terrible, man.
Yeah.
And she just gives like that she's going to throw up look. And we go back to Panhandler Steakhouse, and Holloway is like, "Oh, she'll be fine. Besides, every man needs to be cut from his ball and chain now again. Ain't that right, JR?" They have set this guy up to be the most hated guy. He's just a
he's
jackass.
Terrible. Yeah, he is
really
a jackass the whole episode.
Yeah. So the lady at the waitress stand or the hostess stand or the host stand says, "Mr. Hill, your table's ready." And then she says to Peggy, "The 4-top at 39 needs more iced tea, hun. 86, the jalapeno cornbread." And then you look around, and every one of the waitresses there is dressed exactly like Peggy.
Exactly
which
like
is
Peggy.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So they get seated at their table with Peggy dressed like the rest of the waitresses and them coming up. And their waitress comes up and says, "Howdy, partners. Welcome to the Panhandler, home of the world's longest salad bar and the second longest sneeze guard," which I think is a great joke.
Yeah, that is a good joke.
Would you Cowboys care to take on our 72-ounce Lone Star steak? Finish it, and it's free.
Which refers to, I can't remember the name of the company. I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but there's a restaurant in Amarillo.
East Texas, yep.
Out in Amarillo. It's called the Big Texan Steakhouse up in the Panhandle, Amarillo, Texas.
I've been there. Yeah, I've been there. And, if you go in there, they have a chair and a table right in the middle of the place that's set up for anybody that wants to go through that 72-ounce steak thing. So when they bring it out to you,
you pay up front. Too.
Right.
You pay up front, and then they give you your money back if you finish it.
When they bring it out to you, you are the show. And you have to finish the fat. You have to the thing they don't tell you is you got to finish everything, including the salad, the sides, the rolls, everything. You got to finish everything to get it for free. It ain't just the meat.
Oh, it ain't just a steak. Okay.
Yeah. So she tells them,
you.
yeah, that's how they get you. It's not the 72 ounces of meat you got to put in you.
You need a colonoscopy after eating that.
Oh my God. Yeah, I can't even imagine. And so Hank wants to know, of course, how much is it if you don't finish it? And I love the fact that she says, "Well, sir, like my daddy always said, if you have to ask, you can't afford it." And of course, Holloway, being the asshole here, says, "That's what I'm having." And then we go over to the salad bar, and Holloway is just shoving his mouth full of boiled eggs, which is you ever pick anything up off the salad bar and just eat it right there?
Never.
That's super gross.
It's pretty gross. Well, I mean, it's pretty gross as a human being to do that, but it's gross for anybody else that has to come behind you to grab something out of there because if you're not a clean eater and you're
he
just
also
eating,
sneezes.
Well, he sneezes on the sneeze guard. The second longest sneeze guard.
Second longest. I don't know how much of it is uncovered, but if it's the world's
I hope
longest,
it wasn't the area where he was
and
at,
it's the second longest, So Hank, of course, being the guy who pinches his pennies, says, "Lord, no, Mr. Holloway, you're going to fill up on free stuff." Then we get Dale and Nancy walking up, and Dale's like, "Hey, Roy Rogers, Halloween was last year." Hank has to once again introduce Mr. Holloway to his friends and neighbors and says, "Mr. Holloway, these are my neighbors, Dale and Nancy Gribble. Mr. Holloway came all the way from Boston." Now, here's where it sets kind of a time for us, right? It stamps itself with a year. Because he says, "Yeah, I know the place. That's Taxachusetts, ain't it? Say hello to Willie Horton for me when you get home. He's teaching at your kindergarten." Now, did you look up anything about Willie Horton, or do you know who Willie Horton is?
No, I don't know. That's one I didn't look up.
Okay. So during the 1988 presidential campaign, it was George H.W. Bush running against Dukakis, Michael Dukakis, the one who put on the helmet inside the tank.
Yeah.
Willie Horton, born in 1951, this is from Wikipedia, it says, is an American convicted felon who, while serving a life sentence for murder without the possibility of parole, was the beneficiary of a Massachusetts weekend furlough program, which doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know why you're giving a convicted killer who's given a life sentence a weekend furlough. He did not return from his furlough and ultimately committed assault, armed robbery, and rape before being captured and sentenced in Maryland, where he remains incarcerated.
Oh, wow.
So this guy was pulled out during the presidential campaign as a reason, because Dukakis was from Massachusetts, not to elect him because of his politics.
Oh, okay.
That's exactly what this was, yeah. This was when George H.W. Bush was the vice president and the Republican nominee, and again, running against Michael Dukakis.
Yeah.
There you go. There's your history lesson for the day, kids. And so Hank spouts up real quick and says, "I'm sorry, Mr. Gribble, but a cowboy doesn't talk about politics at the chow wagon. Happy trails," just trying to get rid of it.
Yeah, I haven't got my croutons yet.
Well, the weird thing is Dale doesn't say croutons. He says croutons or something like that.
Croutons or something like that.
Really weird, yeah. So we're back at the table. They bring Holloway his gigantic 72-ounce steak. He cuts into it, eats one bite, pushes it away from him.
Oh,
and
stick
says,
a fork in me, I'm done.
Yeah. And Hank's like, "Oh, no, you're not."
No, you're not. He said, "Give me a quarter, JR."
It's really weird. He's like, "Give me a quarter, JR. I'm going to go test my grip." Have you ever used one of those grip machines like that?
Yeah, I've used it before.
I never enjoyed that.
I didn't know what it was about. Like,
I understand.
The only allure that it had to me was I felt like I was in like some Guy Ritchie movie or something, and you're like on the beachfront in England, because there's a place in England called Blackpool, and it's where all the gypsies would sell stolen stuff, and they'd have little booths, and it's like a family place. They would have like the carnival, and they would have like the pier that had all the fun stuff on it. Yeah, it's a really big tourist trap thing, and they would have all these test my grip or test my strength or
I understand the
fortune
test my strength
teller
thing, right? And I understand the fortune teller stuff, even though really appropriated.
Well, it's a manly thing though, grip. I'm sure if you look back at the test my grip machines, it probably goes back to the
I'm sure it goes back
early
to the
1900s,
20s, 1800s, whatever. Yeah.
I just think of a big guy with it reminds me of like the old weightlifters with the
big handlebar.
They had the big handlebar mustaches with the barbells that were just like metal balls.
Yeah.
Ballsy. Yeah, metal ballsy. Keep your metal balls clean.
Yep. So this is really the first time that Peggy speaks up about what's going on.
Yeah.
She says, "Oh, I thought so. You got something right there on your back, honey." And he says, "What?" And she goes, "Footprints." and then she gets brought down a peg because the head waitress comes over and says, "Break time's over, darling. Kitchen's backed up."
Yeah.
Just wonderful. Hank goes over to the grip machine where Thatherton is now standing with Holloway over there testing his grip. Hank tells Peggy before he leaves that he's making some progress. He can always tell when a customer's close. And then we hear the announcement overhead that says, Thatherton, your table's ready.
Yep.
And so he goes over to him, and Holloway tells Hank that his friend Thatherton's taking him to that club where all the waitresses are former Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders.
Yeah.
And he says, well, it's too late, Thatherton. If anyone's taking Holloway to a gentleman's club, it's me, which is so anti-Hank.
Yeah, really anti-Hank.
I can't even imagine Hank going into a stripper bar, but it happens.
A younger Hank maybe, but not a married
man.
Hank.
I don't even know about that because you remember when Cotton takes him to the hotel, even there.
Oh, yeah. He was all wigged out. Yeah, you're probably
right.
right.
So Burt Reynolds / Thatherton says, well, then I'll see you over there then. And Holloway really likes him, says, I like that guy. Hank says, Holloway don't move a muscle because he's basically had all he can take.
Yeah, he has.
He goes into the bathroom, and then Holloway just being a jackass. He's like, get me some protection too, which is just, again, it's gross. Right? You're just like, go get me some condoms.
I mean, for high school or, college kids or something.
Maybe.
Like, you could get away with that as a teenager, in your early 20s. But if you're like a 40, 50-year-old man talking to your buddy, like, yeah, grab me some protection too, you're either single or just weird.
That's true.
Yeah.
And so the last shot we get before another commercial break is Hank kind of staring at himself in the bathroom mirror and hearing Bobby's voice saying, the man I most admire is my dad, Hank Hill.
Yep.
Which that really cuts to the quick.
Yeah, it does.
So now we're at Jug Store Cowboys. Wonderful name. And Peggy is letting them out there, letting out Holloway and Hank at the stripper bar, which is nuts. She says, okay, have fun, boys. And then Hank is kind of crawling out of the car. He says he thought she was going to be mad because he was supposed to help Bobby.
Well, that's what he says. I thought you might be mad. And then he looks over at her, and she's got this scowl on her face. Yeah, she's pissed.
She's not going to let Holloway know, but she is pissed at Hank.
Yeah, she's pretty pissed.
He says, I was supposed to be helping Bobby, and instead we're going to the Jug Store Cowboys as part of my work-related sales excursion, which is, you can always tell when Hank's in trouble because he over-explains things. He says as I said, keeps you in pretty dresses like that one, and she's just like, get out.
And then he has to ask her for $50.
He asks
and then after asking for $50, he asks for some ones, for the G strings.
She just chunks some money at him and takes off.
Yep.
Now we are inside Jug Store Cowboys, where there's a lot of dancing going on, a lot of guys at those tables, those little tiny tables where two guys sit and watch women undress and dance around. It's just the weirdest. Strip joints to me have always been the weirdest thing in the world.
I didn't mind them.
I
went a few times.
Them.
I went a few times, but for me, anywhere there's alcohol and people drinking alcohol, I try to avoid. So if there was like a alcohol-free strip club, I probably wouldn't mind going to one. But like, I don't really. I don't know. I think alcohol and women and it's just literally a room full of sweaty dudes it's just not really what I'm.
The thing I don't
really
understand
like
about strip clubs is you go in there to get all riled up and then you leave. That just seems like a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, you're paying for blue balls.
Yeah,
when you could get it for free from somebody at a bar.
Hank is not worried about this at all. He's still in sales mode.
You know how to keep your blue balls clean? Ballsy.
Ballsy. Yeah, Hank goes into telling him about how versatile propane is. It'll do everything that natural gas can do and more. And Hank gets interrupted by a dancer who is right next to the table, sticking her butt in his face.
Like her butt is on his face at one point. He's like trying to look around it.
He says, please, ma'am, I'm trying to carry on a conversation. Yeah, I see your rear. Very nice. Okay, there's some people over there that want to look at it too.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful. He says, now, how about it, Mr. Holloway? You say you left the Strickland, but this is his last-ditch sales effort here, man. I mean, he is all in, and he is struggling so hard. And then, of course, Holloway is like, he's already drunk. And he says, buy me a mint julep. And he says, heck, that's not even a Texas drink. You can't even get your stereotypes straight. And so he says, buy me a mint julep, then I'll talk to you about propane. And so Hank's like, okay, finally, thank God he's going to talk to me about propane. Yeah. So he goes up to the bar, and he orders a mint julep, and there is a waitress / shot girl there.
There's just like mint julep.
The only reason I know she's a shot girl is because she's got on the what do you call that, a bandolier?
Yeah.
When it's got all the shot glasses
in it.
Yeah.
Which is the voice actor for this is also the same one who does Nancy and Reverend Stroop. Her name is Ashley something. I can't remember her last name.
It's a weird last name. So she says, she questioned him about the mint julep. He says, yeah, it's not for me. It's for a Yankee client. I love the fact that he's got to say it's not for me.
Well, I like it's
for
funny.
the Yankee.
Yeah, and then he goes, he make you wear that hat? You know, that's what's funny how she does that.
Yeah,
like, I like
like,
that.
yep.
Oh, honey, I know exactly how you feel. She says, every night my boss makes me put on this humiliating outfit to seduce some drunk out of his money. We're a lot alike.
She says we're a lot alike.
And I like it when Hank has these moments with just, different people because he doesn't think about, he just was like, why do we do it, Chiffon?
He looks at her name tag. He's like, why do we do it?
And she said, we do it for the money. Yeah, we do it for the money, cowboy. I never made 6 figures a year at the Potato Hut.
Potato Hut.
And he's like, 6 figures? And she says, oh, yeah, soon I'll have enough to stay home with my granddaughter and her baby.
And this is kind of the final straw for Hank. He says, I should be home too, helping my boy with his Sunday school report. And of course, she, being nice, says, hey, how about a lap dance?
How old does she have to be at home with her granddaughter? And
I don't know,
though?
but I love the fact that the thing she has to offer him is a lap dance.
Yeah, that's it.
Hey,
yeah.
how about a lap dance? We go back to the Hill House, and Peggy is questioning Bobby. She's like, what are you still doing up? He says, I don't get it. How could he have fought in the Spanish-American War the same year he invented the world's first pressure-cooking chicken fryer? She says, oh, Bobby, your father never fought in any war. He's like, oh, I know. I've given up on Dad. The man I most admire is Colonel Sanders.
Colonel Sanders, yeah.
It's just fantastic little aside there. We go back to Jug Store Cowboys.
So the first pressure cooking chicken fryer was invented by
Colonel Sanders.
Colonel Sanders?
Yeah. As far as I know, I think it was.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of those stupid YouTube videos that are like 18 minutes long.
Was it somebody else's idea that came to him and he bought their idea?
So I think it was already a thing, and he bought the idea.
He bought the idea and then mass produced it.
And then mass produced it, yeah. And you know that Colonel Sanders absolutely hated Kentucky Fried Chicken. Like in the later years, he would go to these restaurants and he would say that he absolutely hated this product because it wasn't what he originally made.
Yeah.
He said that the gravy tasted like glue, and he just hated the food.
Do you remember the Kenny Rogers
say that?
Do you remember the Kenny Rogers
Roasters?
You remember Kenny Rogers Roasters?
Mm-hmm.
You know it still exists?
Oh yeah.
In Southeast Asia?
We had one on Valley Mills here.
Yeah. It's the only place that exists anymore is in Southeast Asia.
Really?
I was watching a weird food documentary. It was talking about all the food places that existed and are now dead. Some of them died out completely and they only exist in stores with whatever merchandise they had.
I think you and I are watching the same things
we
on
might
YouTube.
Be,
I
yeah,
believe
we might be.
I watched one about Zima the other night.
Oh, Zima. Did you know they brought it back for a little
yes.
while? Yeah.
So
I
you
bought
watched
some to try it. Yeah, I bought some to try it. Yeah.
I think you watched the same one. It is still big in Japan. It never went away in Japan.
I never went away in Japan.
So
that's what it is. There's a lot of American products that do that.
This has nothing to do with King of the Hill, but I'm going to give you a little Zima history lesson real quick.
Let's do it.
Because I watched this YouTube video.
I love it. Great content.
When they brought out Zima, they tried to make it a man's drink, right? Because this was the time of wine coolers, and so they were like, let's cash in on this, but let's make it for men. They never could get men here in the U.S. to drink Zima.
The only people I've ever seen drink Zima are my friends' mom's lesbian friends.
Yes. Well, there's a lot of like cheerleaders
drink.
and stuff like that.
They
all
drink.
Yeah,
it became almost a Smirnoff. It's like the little Smirnoffs or whatever.
Yeah. It's crazy that now they could probably sell it.
They probably do good now.
But back then, boy, they could not, and they tried so hard, and they never gave up on that whole "it's a manly drink" thing, and so that's what ended up killing it here. Now in Japan, it is a manly drink. A lot of men drink it over there, but it comes in like 15 flavors or whatever.
Well, that's the thing about the Japanese. If there's a flavor combination, they're going to have a product with it. The Kit Kat line is insane.
Oh, Kit Kats are nuts.
Yeah.
I didn't like Zima at all. I thought it tasted like medicine. It was pretty crappy.
I was like 12.
Yeah.
So whatever it tasted like. I mean, we sipped it, but
it was awful.
It was it is what it was. It reminded me of like a Sprite, alcoholic Sprite is what we thought.
But even worse, like more of a
syrup,
medicine-y taste or whatever. Anyway, we are back at Drugstore Cowboys, and brings in the mint julep.
The mint julep, which we later on finds out he really wanted to order.
He doesn't even know what the hell he's talking about.
He doesn't know what he's ordering.
He gives him the mint julep, and he goes, okay, now let's talk propane. And he goes, you call this a mint julep? Where's the vodka? Where's the tomato juice? Maybe I ought to let Thatherton buy my drinks from now on. That is not.
He wanted a Bloody Mary. Yeah, he wanted a Bloody Mary, not a mint julep. He didn't even know what he wants to drink.
And so this is the last straw for Hank. And he says, I tell you what, mister, I'll tell you what, I don't want your business. Not this way. You want to go with Thatherton? Go. But one of these days when your propane mixture is only 89% and you have a smelly condo development full of crying babies whose bottles haven't been properly heated, you give me a call. My name is Hank Hill, and I sell propane and propane accessories with honor and dignity. And the only thing this dude has to say is them are fighting words, JR.
He gets up and he looks lit at this point, though.
Oh,
he looks
lit.
three sheets to the wind. He doesn't he's not, at the beginning of it, he wasn't drunk but slowly as they're going through this, scene or whatever, you could tell that
my favorite part of this is that he throws a bunch at Hank, and Hank just catches
grabs it.
Which
Hank's a scrapper, though.
We've had Peggy say before, oh, no, he'd kill you, or whatever.
Yeah, he's a scrapper.
I think Hank could probably take somebody down pretty easily.
Well, it's like that with a lot of, because I was never athletic, but I have a lot of friends who were athletes, and they still, even though they don't really work out or anything anymore, they were going through puberty working out. Yeah. They worked out until they were at least in their early 20s and then stopped. So they built that core strength.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So, I wouldn't mess with Hank now.
So
and he's lugging propane tanks. They're not. It can't be.
Well, that's true too.
Can't be light.
Yeah, I
doing
guess you're
that
right
all day
about
long.
that.
Full propane
He goes,
tanks.
"This isn't a John Wayne movie, Holloway. I'm not going to fight you." And then, of course, here comes Thatherton.
I'll fight you, Pilgrim. Yeehaw!
And he just
boom, and
socks him.
Yeah.
And just Hank takes off. And that is really it.
Which is funny, though, because in this scene right here, you see them exchange a couple of punches.
Yeah.
That dude from Boston just hits him with a haymaker for MF Thatherton. Then you see the bottom of MF Thatherton's feet.
What amazes me is that Hank doesn't have to explain to Buck, why he didn't get this guy's business.
Nope.
We never see any of it. So,
there's a scene. Okay, so this is a bit of trivia that I was waiting until we got to. So when the episode kind of ends on this peaceful scene, you got Holloway and all the fighting scene and everything. So we assume that Hank loses that.
Right.
Well, there's a scene cut from the TV airing of the episodes, which is, I imagine, what we watch.
Oh, yeah.
When we watch Hulu and stuff.
Sure.
It's all the TV cut. Well, the scene that gets cut actually reveals that Mrs. Holloway is the one that actually owns the company.
Oh.
And it's actually in her name. So she's the one that actually had to be
that makes way more sense in the fact that she liked what Peggy was doing and all that stuff,
Yeah,
because
and then
honestly,
she awards the account to Strickland. So the cut scene, so the deleted scene is actually on the DVDs. That's why I got to get the DVDs.
She honestly is,
if y'all want to buy the DVDs for us, just let me know and I'll set up a PayPal or whatever so y'all can send it.
She honestly is a totally secondary throwaway character in this thing, and that makes
so
way more sense.
I feel like that's a scene that got cut. So that cut scene or whatever, it kind of explains it a little bit more. But I guess they probably just ran out of time, and that was just something that had to get cut.
So we end this thing up. We're at church, and Bobby is up presenting his Sunday school report.
It's hilarious.
For some reason.
It's great. I like it. I love this. I've been to a lot of Sunday school, and I know you have too.
Oh yeah.
I don't ever remember anything like this in Sunday school.
I never had to make a presentation.
Most of it was me trying to hide playing my Game Boy and then getting it taken away.
Sure.
Literally every Sunday it was me
or like a group of you up there singing or whatever, and you just mouthing the words because you don't want to sing.
Yeah.
But we get Bobby standing at the pulpit, and he is reading his report, and he's obviously summing it up. He says he doesn't have an oil well, he doesn't own a Cadillac, and he doesn't wear cowboy boots because he's not a cowboy. And on account of they squish his toes. But the man I most admire is a real Texan. He's my daddy, Hank Hill. And then Hank's like, woo, yeah, that's my boy.
But at this point, Hank had to walk in to see this. He wasn't like at first when they pan through the room, there's no Hank, and then you eventually see him.
So, but then Bobby adds a little bit at the end here. He says, thank you, and I want to thank my dad especially, not especially, but especially.
I want to thank my dad especially
for accepting me and raising me as his own, even though I was fathered by another man while Mr. Hank Hill was in a Mexican POW camp. Thank you.
I got a real funny well, not a funny story, but a family story to kind of wrap up the end of
Yeah.
it, talking about being fathered by another man. Well, one of my dad's older cousins, when I say older cousins, my dad is now in his 60s, and his cousin, if he were still alive, would be in his late 90s.
Okay.
Early, maybe even hundreds.
Okay.
But he fought in World War II. Well, he was a foot soldier, so he did this, the whole storming the beaches of Normandy and all that. Well, from the storming the beaches of Normandy for 4 years, he didn't ever get back to the United States for 4 years. And he was always a frontline guy. So as the line moved, sometimes it took longer and longer. As the line moved forward, it took longer and longer and longer for him to get mail and all kinds of stuff like this.
Right.
Well, there was one time frame of something like a year and a half, where there was no contact between him and his wife.
Yeah.
Well, he comes home, and there's a little boy there.
Oh, no.
He already had kids. They had already had kids before he went to war.
Oh, yeah.
Then there was another one there when he got back. Well, apparently the reason why it's called the baby boomer generation is because that was happening, as well as when all them guys got home, they started having more kids. So he accepted that kid, raised him. My dad said, "Yeah, I mean, he raised him his whole entire life. That was his duty. He did it twice. He did his duty in the war, then came back and took care of the milkman's kid."
The milkman's kid. Well, man, there's really not much else to this. You see the credits, and then you just hear Holloway laughing at the end with his big cackle. But it's a great episode. It really is.
Yeah, I really like this episode.
It shows how far Hank's willing to go, but then Hank's values always catch up with him.
Always. So he'll go to the limits, and once that limit breaks, it builds up. I feel like Hank is he's emotional and he gets mad, but if it's something to do with work or something, he'll grit his teeth and bear it. Just like Buck, he grits his teeth and he's buried Buck. Tolerated his nonsense for 15 years, and we'll see way more episodes later on where we see how much of a menace Buck actually is for Hank, and the influence he has on his son, and all kinds of crazy situations. Like, if a guy put my son in a situation like that, who's somebody I respected and as a friend, or even a father figure type person, I would have whooped their ass.
Yeah,
it was crazy, some of the stuff. Yeah. But I can't wait, man. I can't wait to get there. I can't believe we're already on episode 9 of season 2.
Well, then next week is 10. I mean, it's just crazy how fast this thing goes.
Yeah. I wanted to thank everybody though, because I think we've hit over 5,000 downloads total now.
Wonderful.
So you guys got us to over 5,000 downloads since we've been doing this podcast. And we're only on season 2, guys. So let's keep going.
The thing that we talked about this last week is unique listeners. We are picking up unique listeners every day, and we really appreciate that. I'm more excited about the unique listeners than I am the downloads.
Yeah, I am too.
Because that means more and more of you are listening to us, and
we
appreciate
just can't it so much. Yeah, we really can't thank y'all enough.
So if they want to catch us on social media, where do they go?
They can go to BWAAA KOTH, and that's pretty much just everywhere. BWAAA KOTH.
And then if you want to know more about us, or if you want to catch some other shows, you can go to RogueMediaNetwork.com. And Rusty, it's been fun.
Yeah, it's been a good one. Wimatanye.
Wimatanye indeed.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast. Frozen, heroes. Gonna tell you about frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about.
Hey, I'm Zach.
And I'm Mike.
And we have a fantastic new podcast to tell you about. Bros, Foes, and Heroes. It's the two of us looking into the world of comics, breaking down some characters that you may have never heard of, and some that are just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, so Zach comes up with a character each time, and I go into it just completely blind. I don't know who this person is or what their abilities are or anything, and basically I guess we kind of go over their origin story and just some of the ridiculous stuff that maybe, especially Golden Age stuff.
Oh, Golden Age stuff is always the best, and we will make sure to highlight all of the shenanigans and just absolute weirdness of everything.
Yeah, that's right. So subscribe today and follow us on Instagram at Bros Foes Heroes.
And if you don't, I know where you live. Not really, but please subscribe.
Bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about.
Welcome to One Star Rewind, a new podcast about those dreaded one-star reviews that every business owner hates to receive, but yet every customer loves to read. During this podcast, we will peel back that one-star review to better understand how it happened, when it happened, and what the business owner is doing after receiving that one-star review. This podcast will be about love, hate, and laughter. On One Star Rewind, we will meet with real business owners who will tell their stories and how they do rely on reviews for their business. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or download us at roguemedianetwork.com. Please subscribe, but only rate and review for not a one-star review. Join us each time for a new review and a new story.